Welcome to another episode of Unraveling Success. I have a familiar face with me. It's the only time we've ever had the same person for 2 episodes. So Curtis, welcome to part 2 of your story. And so our first time together, we kind of learned your story from where you are right now backwards. And the more we got to talking, the more I realized like there's so much like meat on the bone to your story. And I think also there's so much impact to what you have to share, the wisdom you have to share, that it made sense to then have part 2 and then really kind of start like from the beginning forward. I think you have some like really valuable nuggets to share. And so yeah, I guess with that being said, I'm going to kind of throw the ball in your court and have you kind of share your story in sequential order forward. And then I will, as you chat, I know like naturally questions are going to come up. So I'll just, we'll just have a conversation that way.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Well, first again, thanks for having me again. I really appreciate you. So, I mean, coming back from last time, we more so just spoke on like, the 2 businesses I'm operating now and the growth in the fitness industry, really growth in the contracting company, how that came about. And then, yeah, you're right. It kind of stirred back to like where I came from, which kind of told you how I was built from, like what brought me to where I'm at. So I guess I can start back. I mean, it goes as far back if I'm going to get right into the story. I was in high school and I was a kid that I think I missed one day of school from like 5th grade to senior year. Yeah. And the only day I missed up to senior year, well, 2. I lied. 2. So I missed MLK Day in 6th grade because we had school, like we had snow days up in Michigan, which I'm sure you're familiar with that. But there was one day we had, and it was, I was on MLK Day. It was one of our makeup days. And so my mom pulled me out of school. So I got marked absent for that day. Yeah. Senior year was senior skip day because they were having pizza. So that was out of my whole, from like 5th grade to senior year, those were the only 2 days I ever missed. So I always got the participation award or the perfect attendance award. So that I was more so like a honest student. I've always been an honest person. And that's why like I'm glad you're having me on the show to talk about my story and how we came about and me making the post to be able to get the offer and to talk about my story. Because a lot of people don't like to share all the hardship. People like to give a little bit of the story, but not the full story. And that's where I come in, because it's not easy. And like from what I came from, like just growing up, it's not like I had this stressful life of parents not being home. My parents just worked. So I did have that. Other people don't have that. So I'm blessed to have that. Well, then when it really got kind of a little left field for me was like college, but it wasn't left field as in I was just this troubled kid. I had my parents, I had a brother and sister. It was more so I was just hungry for success or determination or what most people would call validation from others. So when I got to college and realized, okay, I got financial aid, boom, boom, boom. Well, then I was like, okay, now I need money for other things. And then that's when I got to the point to where, obviously in Michigan, this is just as, like I tell you, I'm going to just be as raw as I can be. Michigan, that was probably right around 2017 to 2018. I graduated in 2015. But throughout those years, that's when, marijuana became legal in Michigan. There was big things happening. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe I can get my medical card. And her opportunities for patients and tried to do it the legal way, but it wasn't fully recognizable of I wasn't fully aware of what the actual laws were. So I was growing more than I was supposed to. Yeah, and that was a mistake on my behalf for getting involved with something that I wasn't 100% in on the legality side. And that shows you, and that's not just, this is where a lesson learned in business is, that's just like, the laws is the same with business. Like you can run a business all day, but if you don't follow the tax laws or just regular state laws and stuff like that, it can be the worst thing that ever happened to you. Right. Which in my case, that's why I ended up, that's why I ran into the problems that I ran into because I didn't follow the legalities. Well, then when that all basically from that came apart, I got rated. This was in 2014. I had more plants than I was supposed to. And then throughout that time in college, I started having fun and partying, typical 24-year-old kid stuff. And after like all that happened, I was going through court while still trying to finish school at U of M, University of Michigan. And it kind of like at that point, I reached out to my old job because I worked at a moving company prior to that. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. Because throughout this time of trouble and frustration and, trying to get validated by other people, like I was still trying to work. Like I still need to make money. At the end of the day, I'm still hustling. I still got to do something to make sure the bills are paid.
Right.
Rather I'm in trouble or not, rather I'm facing hardship or not. At the end of the day, bills still have to get paid. I still got to keep a roof over my head. So it was like I just never gave up because I still believed in myself. And I feel that even with my story, there's a lot of people out there that when one little thing happened, they give up on themselves. And I try to tell people, like, what was the worst thing that ever happened to you? Are you still alive today? Yeah. Did you get through that?
Yeah.
Some people do, some people don't, but there's two ways you can choose to look at it. You can choose to look at it and say, I'm going to fold up in defeat and say, screw it, like, and then become a victim of society. Like a lot of friends that I know growing up was like, oh, well, we can't do this because of this and all these reasons on why you can't do something. And that's what kind of like pushed me away from Michigan, because a lot of people I knew would spend so much time fixating on why they can't do something. And I'm like, there is literally people that I can look at that I can definitely say are less capable and less knowledgeable than you in certain areas, and they're doing it.
Yeah.
There's kids that are half your age that are doing it because they believe in something. So the first thing people have to do is learn how to believe in themselves. And with my story, it was like, even though I was in trouble and I wasn't doing the right things correctly, I still believed in myself as a person. Like I was still inspirational. I was still motivational. I still pushed people to do better. But then when I lost my freedom and like I said, it wasn't like there's people out here that's got stories where I was locked up for 20 years for something I didn't. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
There's people that are way worse stories than I have. But in my case, it was like I did lose my freedom. I lost it for 30 days. And that's all it ever took. Like you losing your freedom for 30 days, people realize that you take your time for granted on this planet. Like you're not promised anything.
Right.
And that's kind of like where I was like, okay, I got out of jail. I immediately moved out of the house that I was living in. Completely moved out because I just wanted to get rid of that bad juju. Was working at the moving company again, and I was doing all that. And then I decided one day after I graduated college, throughout this time I was building the case study, like I said, for my boss at the moving company. It was like, hey, I presented this to him. It was like, I would love to run the marketing department. I've been here on and off for 8 years, which in his thought as a business owner now, on and off for 8 years ain't consistent enough to give somebody a massive position like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it took me maturing to understand that. Like at the time I was, 19 years old, 20 years old, just running, like just thinking like you should give me this trust. Well, you can't just give that trust to somebody who's not consistent. That was a breakthrough for me to learn, like now in my 30s, like, dang, that's why he said no. It wasn't because he didn't trust me. It was just because I was inconsistent.
Right. That's good.
You can't build anything strong with inconsistency. It has to be consistent. It has to be, and so like that's something that took me a long time to learn. And throughout that time, outside of everything else I had going on, I decided that I want to start this business because now I don't feel like my boss has any confidence in me to run this department. And I'm trying to grow. And rather, if I have to be here or somewhere else, I have to grow. Like I'm like a shaking pop, shaking soda.
Yeah.
And like I'm ready to go, like I'm about to explode. So I got to move forward. So it was like one of those things where I put in my 2 weeks. They weren't happy with me. But like I've always said, if anybody's not happy with you putting in your 2 weeks, they don't really care about your success. But it also could mean that they're just in a really hard spot and you're putting them in a tough position. But that's the whole reason they give them 2 weeks. So that's when I went off and started First Option Delivery. And I started doing the moving company thing. And I just felt as if my customer service level was top tier. And still to this day, I feel like that's something that I excel at. I seem to get along with everybody some way, somehow. And I have very few enemies, I could say, that I know of, everybody. But it's like I also don't give a lot of people too much access to me at the same time, because you also got to be aware of your trust and stuff like that. Well, yeah, so then through those times, that's when I started First Option Delivery. And then, in our first year, I think we did like 45 grand or something like that. But that was also because I was trying to just give my friends a deal, give people a deal I know, let them know I'm there, And then I realized like, okay, this is more than just physical work. Like, you have to really know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I picked up a notch. I raised my prices. People were mad. I lost a lot of clients, but I also gained a lot of clients because then now I had a system in place that I felt was solid, even though I was still trying to find. I had, at that time, I think there was 4 workers. So it was me, Trent, Ryan, and Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were our solid base. And then, I'd have Andrew and then my buddy Tyler that I worked with. And these are all some guys from the old moving company. And Will, I would have these guys that worked at the moving company with me before. Hey, guys, I got this job. I'm willing to pay you this much, which the one thing I won't play with people is their time and their money.
Mm-hmm.
So I always made sure if I knew they were making $16, $17 an hour, hey, guys, I'll give you $20 an hour to come on this 10-hour move. Like, I always wanted to one-up it a little bit, because at the end of the day, as a business owner, if I'm not there or I can't always be there, I have to provide some type of incentive other than just anybody can get a job anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to provide some type of incentive, either financially, mentally, or whatever it may be, to make them want to be there, so that way they can provide a good service for the customer. So here I am. I'm, at this time, I'm 22 years old, scraping by, trying to figure it out. I'm running across town for these estimates, no estimate fees charged. So you're talking, I'm driving an hour away to quote these jobs that I'm not even getting, wasting time, wasting gas, but at the same time, building rapport, building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all after, I got in trouble. And then in the midst of that, I graduated college at University of Michigan, because once I was like, I need to finish, and that was a struggle, because I was like, I felt like I should have been done in a specific amount of time with only having a 4-year degree, but yet I'm there 8 years. And it's like, well, why haven't you graduated yet? And sometimes that can knock people down, but I'm not a person to feel like just because I didn't get it done in somebody's time frame that I'm unsuccessful.
Yeah. Forward is forward.
Like 100%. Like, I literally this is a little left field, but I had a conversation with my sister today, just on the phone, about like business. And, I was just kind of telling her, like, at the end of the day, us as adults, like, we have these high expectations for our kids, but it's like, at the same time, us as adults are still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's like I've saw so many parents put such a hardship on specific kids just because they want them to proceed and excel and be better than them. But it's like, you're still trying to figure it out. So it's like, don't let them be better than you. Just have them be their own person so they can excel and be comfortable in their own skin no matter what they do. Yeah. I don't care if Kobe plays badminton.
Right.
Everybody's like, your son should play football. His name's Kobe. He should play basketball. Or if he's a chess player, that's fine. But he better be the best chess player ever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He better work hard at it. That's all I care. As long as you work hard and you give your effort, I'm fine with that. But back to whole, just in general, of like holding this like standard, I didn't want people to feel as if I was rushed into anything. I was like, it took me a little bit longer, but that also taught me a lesson throughout that hardship. And everybody's probably asking it throughout this whole time, where's your parents? Well, my dad's working at General Motors. My mom's working at Hurley Hospital. By this time, she had retired. At 22, my mom took me to Subway to let me know her and my dad are getting divorced. Was I upset? No. I'm like, you guys, and this is where I knew I kind of like was still immature, but knew maturity. Because I looked at her and I said, if you're unhappy, I don't care. You and my father are still my fathers, period.
Yeah.
And another cross story of that is my father, who's technically my real father, or my father by legality, wasn't my biological father. And I didn't find that out till I was 21 years old.
Oh, wow. So you had
my mom.
That.
Yeah, so I was lucky that there was somebody that was willing to show me the ropes and show me work ethic. He, at the end of the day, my dad didn't teach me, the certain things financially that I wish that some people taught me, but he taught me at work ethic. He taught me to show up every day no matter what.
Yep.
Go to work until you're sent home to be sick. Don't call in sick. Go to work and show them that you're sick and let them send you home.
Yeah.
Now, if they work through that and you fall out, that's on them.
Yeah.
But at least you showed up, so that's one thing about me, is I show up every time, no matter what. So that was a lesson that I learned. And then, so moving on from there, as I'm trying to build this company and feel like these people are giving me all these expectations, the business starts growing. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to create this process. We've got a contract with Sears, delivering appliances and installing, the Sears hometown stores before they all closed down. Like, we were installing them, dropping off lawnmowers, installing washer and dryers, fridges.
Right.
On top of that, doing moves. And throughout this whole time, I'm trying to get other contracts. And as I'm coming to these contracts, it's like, oh nope, sorry, you have a, you're in trouble, or we see your record, we see your record, we see your record. And I kept constantly hearing that, and I'm just like, people are like, you just need to get it off your record. Sorry about that, I hiccuped. They said you need to get that off your record, and I'm like, that's what 90% of people would do, but I'm not 90%.
Right.
I'm not 90%. I'm that percent that'll tell you my story and tell you why I deserve to be here, period. Because
Totally.
at the end of the day, I deserve to sit at the same table as anybody else, because just because I didn't have a head start, or like I didn't learn credit until I learned it on my own.
Right.
Until I was 32 years old. I'm 36 now, so I just learned this 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't blame nobody but myself, because it's like that's something I should have been taught or learned on my own when I was in school. But if it's like one of those things, out of sight, out of mind. If it's not pushed to you,
yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
I'm literally going through the motions every day, like trying to make sure okay, what do I got to do today? I was living day by day. And when you live day by day, you're only trying to get through the day versus plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did a lot of getting through the day up through my 30s. And so that's where like a lot of my consistency was built. And then, after running first option delivery from 2016, 2016, 2016. Right around 2019, that's obviously I had known Amanda, my fiance, for some years prior to that from like school and stuff like that. We went to different high schools, but we didn't hang out till like I was in college. And she was wanting to move, and after through all the stories and the hardships, and obviously I was in a really bad relationship. I can backtrack a little bit so I can get the full story. But like I was in a good relationship, but it wasn't the right time because I was just really childish and I wasn't ready for like just a relationship. It was just typical young girl stuff, like always fighting, always arguing, always entertaining the wrong people that I shouldn't be entertaining. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have any, and low key, honestly, I just didn't have any respect for the girlfriend at the time. And people were like, oh, well, what about this when she did that? It don't matter. That doesn't give you the right to be wrong. At the end of the day, it does not matter. Just because somebody's character is different, or they don't act a certain way, or they don't provide a certain thing that you're asking for, okay, then that's fine. Just leave. Yeah. You're young. Leave. Move on. Mm-hmm. You're going to find somebody else. It's okay. And like in my case, I was still fighting for this relationship. And so throughout all this, I got in trouble. I get blasted with a felony. But then I also graduated college. I was partying all the time, every day, living life for validation, trying to have as many friends as I could.
Right.
And then on top of that, trying to build a business. So I feel like when I look back at it now, I'm like, I'm carrying a lot of baggage, and it's like, was it fun at the time? Sure. But was I hurting inside? 100%.
Right.
100%.
Like,
rather people want to, like it was like my outlet was to go out, party and stuff like that. And like, be fun and have all these friends and be able to provide or buy drinks, a round of drinks, and be cool. Like, and it's like, it's fun while it lasted, but 95% of those friends I don't even talk to still to this day.
For sure.
So like you get so caught up in the moment that you don't do the small things. So that's like what I said. That's why I wasn't focused on credit or put money away in life insurance or understanding, like one day I'm going to have my own kid of myself or a child of my own. And at that time, I didn't even want a child. Even when when I found out Amanda was pregnant with Kobe, I freaked out. I was panicking. I know what to do. I was like, I'm not ready for a kid. She's like, when is anybody ever ready for a kid?
No, you're not.
How many, like, if you check, like, I'd say like 80% of people aren't even ready. It just happens, the other 20%, they plan for it. But it's sometimes even like, and I was like, she was like, kind of reminded me to be thankful, because there's also some people out there that can't even have kids, and it's like everybody's story's so different, but it's like a lot of the things that I went through younger in life and now got to sit back and look at now based off of building businesses, going through what I went through, looking at everything from the outside in, looking back at my story. It taught me like everybody's stories are completely different, but it's also okay to tell your story, and whether people want to sugarcoat it or not, what happens is that the truth ends up coming out, and then the wrong person gets their hands on it. And I say the reason I always am honest, and I don't want to really fight to get this off my record, and I would rather just sit on it and be like, I'd rather look at somebody and say, no, I do not have a felony on my record, but this happened. in 2014, 2015.
Yeah. Right.
That's
And
10
what
years ago.
you've done since then.
I haven't had any
My
issues since
trajectory.
then, like, yeah, so it's like, what, I mean, you want me to go to court and spend the money just for them to take it off and you have to dig a little bit deeper to find it?
Right.
That's all it's really going to do. So
Yeah.
it's like, at this point, it's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to fly home to Michigan, sit in front of a judge,
Yeah.
slow down on my business here, have, people calling me here like, how do I do this, schedule this, I'm on my computer, for what? Just to simply tell somebody, oh, you got to look harder to find what my record looks like.
Right.
Because if somebody really wants to find it, they're going to find it, period.
Do you find that it's a barrier with your businesses now?
No.
I feel like I can't imagine that it would be.
No, it's not even the closest. What happens is some people will look up my profile.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I get on Nextdoor. I don't know if you know about like Nextdoor, the app. Yeah, so I just had a post the other day about just like talking about growth and that, in reality, it's your job to care. And when people see you care, they then care about your business. But if you don't care, they don't care about your business.
Right.
And that in reality, that the customer, and well, people say the customer is always right, but in reality, the truth is they're not always right. No. There's people have lived on that as like, if you're a business, you have to always respect your customers. 100%. If they respect me, if they respect our business, if they don't try to drag your name through the mud. But once you start trying to do something like that and drag somebody's name through the mud,
right,
that's where you then stand up for yourself, and that is okay. Like, there was a guy, he said something about like, you're just a contractor that you hire people in and charge ridiculous amounts of money for something that could be done cheaper and this and then the third. And my simple response was to him, that's not me overcharging anything for business. That's called smart business.
Yeah.
You don't see Elon Musk selling you a car at Tesla.
Yeah.
You don't see Jeff Bezos dropping off your packages from Amazon.
Well, and it's more concierge, right? Like you can coordinate a number of jobs together so that it takes the burden of doing that. And there's value to that, and it may not be something he values, and it doesn't have to be, but it doesn't negate the value of what you are doing.
Yeah, and he'll bring up, like he brought up something about, and they may handle that like that in Flint, Michigan, based off your background that you told us about, but they don't do that here. And I'm like, sure, but based off your character, I value my business more than I value your character. And there's no offense to that, nothing personal.
Yeah.
And I kill people with kindness. So it's like, they can say whatever they want, but that's my story. My story, I stand on my story. You know?
I think the other thing too, like one of the things that I've learned, and really it's probably been just over like the past 5 years, is filter your feedback.
Yeah.
Not all feedback should you just take as truth, or should you take to heart? Like usually, the most criticism are going to come from people that are doing a whole lot less than you.
Oh, 100%.
Right? And so then you really got to put on like a lens or a filter to be like, okay, who am I going to listen to and who am I not going to listen to? I think it was last year. Actually, it was a year ago, probably right around this time. I had just done a small acquisition of a book of business. And it was a very interesting transaction. And this person had some feedback for me. And through a variety of different experiences I had definitely identified that this was not, let's say I wouldn't ever do a deal like this again, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And lots of lessons learned on that one, listening to my intuition and a variety of others. But I remember I got a message like, so-and-so has some feedback for you. And I remember that was where I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in hearing the feedback, because I know immediately that it's only going to be critical. And I also know this person doesn't have the appropriate information to actually give valuable feedback. They're coming from an emotional standpoint that there's no value there other than, and so I actually was like, no. And I I openly, like in my business, like we do anonymous leadership feedback forms once a year. So every February, it goes out to my whole team on me. Like, hey, tell her what she sucks at, and I can't see who is saying it.
Yeah.
Completely anonymous. And so I want feedback, and I want to know where I'm failing or what my blind spots are. But I also won't just take feedback from anybody. I'm careful like where it comes from.
Yeah, you don't want somebody just flat out disrespecting you because they're unhappy with their because you can do the best you can in a transaction, and somebody just simply just not be happy with the results, even though the job was done, and that there's nothing you could see you can't please everybody like that. That is when in business you learn that really fast. You cannot please everybody, no matter what, and it's like we all deal with, and that's why it's awesome talking to you because it's like you understand that because you've been through it. You've been doing this a long time to be able to know like people are going to try to drag your name through the mud just because. Like people usually get online to send a bad review faster than they'll do a good review.
Totally.
And it's like, it's nothing against clients or anything. That's just human nature. When you have a bad experience, when you go and have a good experience, you're just like, yeah, I'm going to tell all my friends. But you're not thinking jump to Google. But the second you have a bad experience, you're like, I'm going to let everybody know on Google and the whole internet.
Yeah.
And especially knowing from back in the day to now, we do have the capability of the internet. And it can almost ruin you if you don't. You got to learn how to play defense. And that's why it's good that you filter it out because you have to be able to play defense. It's not all about offense these days. You got to be able to defend yourself. Whether it's say nothing, say less, or say just the right thing so that way people know you're valid. And
Yeah, I have a friend, he's out in California in the LA area, and he's so funny. So he owns an insurance agency.
Yeah.
And he does the best job. He could literally do a workshop on how to respond to bad reviews.
Yeah.
And he'll actually then highlight them on social media. Like he has a way of how he manages bad reviews to kind of flip them, to basically flip them. It's really, really cool. So it's also, I mean,
And that's a thing I like too. Like that's like literally one of my pride and joys that why I respond to like most people, like if they have like super critical, because like the super critical feedback, especially that I get like on Nextdoor, is more so people like, you don't know what you're talking about, this and that, or why did you ask that, or why did you say this, and I hit them with the most professional response, like, okay, everybody's not fortunate to know the answer to this, and I understand that, and I gotta like explain to them really professionally that just because you know this or most people know this, there is that slight percentage of people that do not.
Right.
There's a slight percentage of people that's okay with getting drugged through the mud and their business is struggling and they can't feed their families because I always say people are out here dragging their name through the mud just simply because they may have showed up 20 minutes late and they don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like It's like, but if your Amazon package shows up 2 days late,
yeah.
Well, so it's small businesses that usually come after it. So like with being a small business, I'm like I stand on that because I know dang well I've stood in the Lowe's line a million times, watching people complain about this, that, and the third. This is ridiculous, and I see them back there a week later.
Yeah.
Right. But with small business, they'll try to ruin you real quick. So
there's a couple of things that I wrote down as you were talking. One is. You were talking about when you were growing marijuana and then you had like a larger amount of plants than you should have. And what I wrote down is it doesn't really matter like the industry or the business, like that is a business. Like especially now it's super booming in Minnesota area here. Anyway, so here's the deal is what a typical entrepreneur mistake, right? Because like all the time entrepreneurs, and this is I can relate to this very much, like I am a very big picture and like a driver, and so I do not pay attention to the details. I have other people that are around me that pay attention to paying taxes and to the legalities of different things. Like I'm just like idea, implementation, get the plan together, get the people together to go. And like that's one of those that was what I wrote down. I'm like, what a typical like big picture entrepreneur,
Yeah.
mistake, that same mistake could be translated into all different kinds of businesses.
Yeah. And
You
I used to always tell
way,
people,
but like
yeah,
it's just an indicator of actually like you're from a like how you're wired from like a headspace as a business owner.
yeah, yeah. And like I used to always tell people, even though it was marijuana and most people, you got like 50% of the world. It's like 50% is like that is terrible,
Mhm.
and the other 50% is like that's awesome or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
But it's like at the end of the day, it's still the rawest form of business. It's supply and it's demand.
totally. Yeah.
Supply and its demand. What happens to a store when you go and they got way too much supply? They
Mhm.
have a fire sale or they lose out or
Yeah.
whatever, and then it's like if they don't focus on the legality of it, like you said, it's the same thing. It's just in a sense of different. And you get some people out there that says it's not the same thing, and I always say how.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't follow the business, I mean that's why they make you in college take business law
Yeah.
because there's laws to business, and the same thing with anything else. There's laws to everything, and if you don't follow them, you will reap havoc for not following the rules and the laws, and
Right.
that's just life as a whole.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Another thing I wrote down was just your losing your freedom for 30 days or the short thing
Mhm.
that you did, like
Yeah.
like for you that was more of a rock bottom moment, right?
Mhm.
And then you
Yeah.
chose then like rather than to let whatever's on your record like follow you,
Mhm.
that you used actually like your story and your rock bottom to
Mhm.
actually realize that like what direction you wanted to go, which was not living life for validation
Mhm.
and taking responsibility and building consistency and moving forward, and embracing like your drive to like grow
Mhm.
and like that is I think it says a lot about you, your character, but I also think that coupled with your story is like a huge um everybody has that same
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
Anybody who has like a crap situation that's happened, we've all had them. They all are going to look different depending on what our individual journeys are. But like
Mhm.
you can use, um, the lows to like actually build like an amazing story and journey.
Yeah.
And most of the time when I talk to people, it is some of the most tragic lows that is brings them their biggest successes. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And the last thing that I had written down when you were talking was, um, you had mentioned that like you get along well with other people and you connect well with other people. And I definitely
Mhm.
agree with that with you. But and I feel like in right now, like in life and in business, like that is going to be probably one of the most important pieces of business is
Yeah.
as like as those of us who own businesses are in this ecosystem that we're in right now, right? Where there's
Mhm.
automation, there's AI, there's all this, there's all the people and connection being
Yeah.
like taken out. It
Mhm.
it is the people with high EQ, it's the people with high AQ, so your adaptability,
Yeah.
and it's the people that are able to connect genuinely
Yeah.
with other people, not as like a tactic, but just like as part of who you are. Those are the
Yeah.
people that are going to have just like a huge advantage
Yeah.
over everybody else. And so I think
Yeah.
that, and that's something that I mean, there's pieces of that can be taught, but the natural ability to do that is just something you got or
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah, you're born with that for sure. Because it's
Mhm.
like so many people that like. I guess I can explain like going to Miami, and seeing a lot of these people that I see on social media. Like when I got into fitness, I'm like, oh, I want to look like this guy, I look like this guy, and I go there and I see these people in person. I go to these gyms they go to,
Mhm.
and their communication skills are so bad.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against them. And it's
You're
like,
like, I don't
here they
want to
are,
do that.
here they are behind, yeah, here they are behind the screen, like, yeah, let's do this. I'm working out with this guy, da 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 da, and I'm thinking these people are so social, and I get there and they're not, and I'm like, oh, so this is all for show.
Yeah.
like people aren't really social, and then it's like me, you put me in a room, I can adapt.
Yeah.
Like I feel I've always said like I'm like a chameleon. You drop me in any room, I'll adapt.
Yeah.
Just tell me the dress code. Because if not, I'll end up there at workout clothes.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, like, tell me the dress code and I'm there and I'm adaptable, but not in a fake way. A lot of people are like, well, it's fake, but it's not in a fake way. It's more so I can read a room and I can hear somebody's story and I can just relate to that because there's so much that's happened in my life, so much I've been around, so much I've been through that rather if my story is the same path as somebody else's, like our story's still aligned because at the end of the day, if you're in a room of people that's climbing a mountain to get to the top, everybody's climbing just on different sides of this mountain, So it's like everybody's going to the same destination, but it's just different, and so many people try to figure out, and like I've noticed, I just went to a business meeting here in Daniel Island here in South Carolina, and it's like Daniel Island Yacht Club, and I'm listening to some of these people talk, and I'm just like, okay. The first thing they walk up to me and say is, "What do you do? What is this?" And I'm just like, that's not genuine. Like, I like it, but it's just not genuine for me. Just say hi, how are you? You have a good day. Like, just start out. But when it's like business, like I kind of like step back because it's like most people are more so just like wired to just come in and like, okay, this is a business meeting, business only. But it's like, no, like come here and, I've complimented, like me and Amanda are there. She knows I'll compliment a lady on her eyebrows. I'll compliment a guy on his shoes. I'll compliment their jackets, little things like, and that'll create conversation and comfortability, So like you said, like all the AI and stuff out there now, like I've listened to a couple podcasts where they're like, use this AI to respond to clients, but the good ones that I listen to say, but don't forget about the personal touch.
Yeah.
People need as many AI reminder texts you can send out or thank you for your business. Like there also has to be that little connection from you or from somebody on your team that reaches out to this client and has to speak to them and say, hey, thank you for your business, or hey, are you doing okay today? Or hey, well, I know we sent you this quote, but is there any questions that you have?
Right.
And not actually always try to have to sell, business. Like we're human beings. Everybody's a human being. What's happening, and I feel like in our society is like AI starting to like drift everybody into being like, okay, do this. Like, because I was the same way with like social media for a while. It's like, hey, I'm a fitness trainer. I'll help the average male and woman that's busy lose 25 pounds. Like, I mean, I looked at it, I started scrolling through, and I'm like, that's not me.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Curtis. I got jokes and I run businesses. That's what I do.
Yep.
That's just me. And I got a story to tell, and I feel like my story just needs to be heard. I'll tell my story 10 times out of 10. So
yeah.
So
good. I think you touched on this a little bit, but when you have a story like you do, where there's just a lot there, right? There's a lot of twists and turns. I think one of the things that it does is it causes you to be less judgmental and to hear other people and approach things with a lot more empathy. And like, you don't, and so I think that's like a byproduct or a benefit of going through a lot is that you hear other people's stuff. Like, it's like me. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. And then what are you having for lunch today? Like, you just run and it's not, so I think like that is, I think in general, the more you've gone through, the more empathy you end up having for other people. And then I wrote this down when you talked about Miami, but I ran across this quote, and it's been within the last couple of months, and it says, never meet your heroes. Like, you don't ever want to meet your heroes because you have in your mind, like what you think they are or who you think they are. And then you meet them and you're like, oh, I guess not. Cause it made me think about, it actually made me think, I'm not going to say the name because it is somebody that I follow from like a mental standpoint. And I've always been like, oh, I totally want to meet this guy. And he was this person, and his content is great, and I followed him for many years. But then I had this thought, I was like, I bet you actually in person, you wouldn't want to meet him.
100%.
He has great content, and I've learned so much from him, and I still follow him and his stuff. But I was like, I bet in person, that would be a disappointing thing for me.
Yeah, well, it's because a lot of them, they like nothing against people that are content creators or I love content creation, but it took for me to like I was just like, oh, we're in this phase right now where everybody's like, oh, I want to be a content creator and get all these ambassador deals and make all this money promoting these products and just live my life.
Mm-hmm.
But they forget there's a whole business behind that.
Yeah.
So like these people that are going out and doing this content creation and all this stuff, like even with the Ashton Hall guy, the guy that does the running, I followed him for a while. Big guy, he does the running and the fitness, and now everybody's running with water in their hair and the Saratoga water, and they're running. Like even him, he's been doing that for 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been following this guy for 9 years, and it just popped up in there. But I like at the sense of it, it's like I've never met him personally, but like the people that I've met that's like affiliated with them or of some sort, like they're just, this is my way to put it. They're just not it. Like you meet them and you're like, I'm more social than this person. Yeah. And then you start looking at yourself like, well, dang, what am I doing wrong with my content? Right. It's like I told people, it's because they have a team of people that run all their operations. They just go out there and live the life and people are recording them on camera. Like Frankie Lapina.
Okay.
He's from Grand Rapids. He's this guy. He wears it's like a little U-Haul. It's like a little UPS suit, and he got stuffed butt. He's got the big booty, and he runs around. He does like funny content. He runs and he does like Daredevil stuff.
Yeah.
He straight up said like, I made $90,000 off content last year.
Oh gosh.
$3,000. He's like, but it cost me $500,000 worth of equipment, worth of time. So everybody always wants to do this thing, but it's like at the same time, that's still a business. You have to understand.
Yeah.
It's physically exhausting when, when you're in front of that spotlight and like,
and you have to be
on point. Like I tell people all the time, they're talking about, I think it's the whole, I don't know if you're into, like, I'm not really into like people's lives, but my friend's messaged me the other day was like, have you saw what happened with Cardi B and Offset and Stefan Diggs? And I'm like, no.
I don't know. Well, I know like a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, Offset and Cardi B are no longer together. Offset was out doing his thing the whole time they were married. Yeah. And now he's mad at her because she's with Stefan Diggs, just drama stuff.
Oh, I didn't know she was okay, good.
Yeah, so she got her son's hair braided just like Stefan Diggs, and my friend's like, I would be so mad or something like that. But I'm like, at the end of the day, could you imagine everywhere you walked and the camera's on you?
No.
You can't hide. And they're like, well, you can't be sloppy. I'm like, you can't hide. There's no way you can physically, in that industry, that's the thing about people wanting to become these creators. They don't realize the responsibility that these things come with, or even a business owner. This is how it relates to just my story and pleasing people. And I'm going to boil this down to, if you have 300 followers or fans or business clients or anything like that, rock that out. Gary Vee will say, if you can't manage 300, you can't manage 3,000. If you can't manage 3,000, you can't manage 30,000. And don't even think about 3 million.
Right.
If you put 300 people in a room and they're all there to see you, you better be happy.
Yeah.
That's 300 people that support you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big room, and it's like so many people get caught up on wanting 10K of these random people that don't know enough about you. Stop posting content for a year. They will forget about you.
Yeah,
and follow somebody else, So that brings you back down. That's what brings me back down to reality, is just knowing that on the back of my head. So like back to my story of finding people with validation or just my story. It's like, I'm telling my story because my story's worth it. Or you hear stories of other people like, oh, which I know they're going about this thing with J-Lo right now, but I lived in the Bronx and this and that. And everybody's like, she didn't. She lived there, but she didn't. She said like she did live in the Bronx, but she didn't do this. And she went to this school and she was lying about all kind of stuff. But like I said, I don't even know because I don't like to keep up with it. But that's just the stuff I hear. And I tell people, I don't want to hear it. Like these people are already famous and successful in their own way. And they know how to do things a lot different than we do.
Yeah.
But I deserve to sit in the same room with them because my headspace is the same thing. I wake up and have a routine that I follow every single morning, just like everybody else, like it's just the access they have or the rooms they've put themselves in. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room, first of all, because you're not growing.
Yep.
Throughout my childhood and lifehood and all those struggles and having the bad relationship, going to jail, getting in trouble, not even for a long time. Because I know there's somebody that's going to probably listen to this podcast and be like, that wasn't a long time. It sure wasn't compared to most people, but it was life.
It doesn't matter.
It was it was literally life changing. You know what I mean? Like if you get your freedom taken for one day, like just to be able to sit on your back patio or go to the grocery store. Like I'll tell you what, everybody lost their freedom when they took Walmart away from 24 hours. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Like Walmart is no longer 24 hours. And I'm sure people still say to this day, like, I can't, you remember when Walmart used to be 24 hours? I said, yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
All the time after the gym at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, so like between like my story and then after everything happened and I just up and left Michigan. So back kind of if we want to, I don't know if you have any other questions. If we do, we can answer them. But back to like the story is like when we got to like 2019, I just up and left Michigan because I had like, it was like I was living day by day. Didn't feel like I was building any life. Every time I traveled anywhere I didn't want to go home. And I sat there and thought to myself, I'm like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what am I doing? I left the company. You know, I basically gave all my business, sold it off to my 3 employees that I had to say, here, you guys have it. I'm taking this box truck and I'm driving over the road and going to pick up less than truckload freight and just driving wherever I stop is where I stop. I got me, my 4 totes, my 4 plastic blue totes worth of clothes and an air fryer and my dog Duke and a Coleman cooler.
Yeah.
And I just drove this Ryder truck all across the country. Living in the truck, you know, and just like, and then I dropped Amanda off in Columbia, South Carolina, because that's where she wanted to move. And like I told you on the last one, I felt like after I left, I felt like I was leaving her alone, you know. So I was like, after I was driving on the road, I finally told her like, hey, I'm just going to move to Columbia, South Carolina. Well, then we were there like 3 months and we hated it. I was like, it's just like living in Flint.
Right.
There's nothing for it. There's no beach. I got to drive 3 hours to go to the beach. We were driving there every weekend and moral of the story, that's how I ended up in Charleston. Now I'm here and I love it here. Now, and there's been times.
So 6 years? Have you been there for 6 years?
Yeah, I've been here 6 years now. And I like told myself, like, there's been times where I've like, I don't want to be here. And, you know, people get to a place and they're like, I'm not flourishing here. I don't want to be here. But when you're a business owner starting a business, you got to give it time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I told you this on the first call, but somebody told me probably about a couple months ago, they looked at me and they said, okay, they said, you got a business, right? And I said, yes. You want to leave because, why? Because you feel like it's not where you want it to be, right? And I said, yes. And they said, your business is 2 years old, 3 years old. I said, okay. Kids still poop in their diapers at 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
Your business is still growing. Like, you got time.
Yeah.
You do. And I finally realized, like, people do all this movement to try to feel validated, to find their place, and which is right. You do fit in certain areas. But if you're running your business, if you keep moving, you'll never get any stability or comfort.
The traction.
You know,
Yeah.
If I go back home to Michigan, I can build a really big company pretty fast. Why? Because I grew up with all these people.
Yeah.
From 4th, 5th grade, you know, so it's not even going to be all my friends. It's going to be my friends referring other people that I don't even know. Because your friends are never the ones who really make you successful. It's strangers.
Yeah.
Right? It's strangers calling you or seeing your business or seeing you out doing something and see, or seeing that yard sign. And like, you know, and after getting here, that's when I started opening my eyes to different things. Like I said, over the road, I was teaching myself credit because the hard part about that is having student loans, looking at it and knowing I was paying double the payment for a year, and then realize when I do stuff like that, when I used to do it, I wouldn't look. Oh yeah, I'm gonna just pay an automatic. Yep, take it. Right. I looked a year later, and my balance went up $2,000. I'm like, that's crazy. I've been making double payments for a year, and my balance went up $2,000. So that's when I finally sat down and said, I really need to figure out and get my life under control.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like I said, my mom, when I talked to her, just growing up, that's just education that they didn't give me. And it's not their fault. I should have sought out on my own. But like I said, out of sight, out of mind.
Right. Yeah. And you know, the good thing is you did learn it and not all that late.
Yeah. And and based off my background, like what I can give out to other people out there is the fact that you can always play the victim and point the fingers like, my parents didn't teach me that. They didn't do that. Well, what did you do? When did you switch? Like you're sitting here telling me about this right now. When did you decide to sit down and slow down and say, okay, I'm going to live below my means and figure it out.
Right.
You know, there's so many.
Yeah. The flip side too is it would be much better for you to learn the work ethic that you learned and learn about credit maybe later than learn about credit and then have a lousy work ethic. Like
work ethic,
better to have it in that order than the other way around, you know?
Yeah, and like that whole story just taught me like resilience. So when I walk into a business meeting or a building, like, am I nervous? 100%, but am I confident? 1,000%.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that anybody can say that's gonna harm me.
Right.
You can say whatever you want. Well, like, you know, you could say something maybe like kind of step on my business, and I'd be like, okay, now, you know, or whatever you may be. But that's just anywhere you go, people are always gonna try to knock you off your totem pole. But it's like you got to walk in there like you own the place, you know. And it's not that you really just own the place, but you just got to stand 10 toes. Like you live in this body,
right.
You live in this body, and you are in 100% control of it, and don't let nobody control you. Like,
right.
As much as we're emotional creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, when people go through the things that, you know, I went through, or things you've went through in your life, or whatever it may be, or whoever's went through whatever, it's really easy to crawl up in a ball and just say, oh, you got me.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder to stand up and say, you know what, there's nothing you can do to stop me. Like, there's nothing you can do to slow me down, because at the end of the day now, looking at business or speaking to anybody, like if I would go out and speak to anybody or talk to, like, my nephew, his friends are here visiting, and when I talk to them, I'm like, you guys can do whatever you want. You're 18.
Yeah.
And your whole world's in front of you. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you do. Travel as much as you can. See as much as you can. Make money and put it away. Like, my advice that the older generation above me used to tell me is work as much as you can and save as much as you can. 100% right. Save it in the right areas.
Yeah.
Save it in, rather, kids don't think they need term life insurance now, but they don't realize that when you pay into term life insurance, you get a cash reserve that you can then utilize for a loan for yourself. So, and I don't even know 100% of that, but I just know that from what I've met from my mentor and stuff like that, there's just certain things that you can do that's going to create steady cash flow for you, to where when you do retire or you step back or want to slow down and scale back, that you have that generating and compounding over time.
Right.
And it's like, and I know that that's your avenue, that life insurance, business insurance, that's your area where you flourish. So you can probably teach me a lot on that, which I will literally have to talk to you about one of these days. We'll have to get on and chat about that, because there's a lot that I'm still learning that and it's like, the thing is, people get so caught up thinking that they're too afraid to ask questions.
Right.
Back to my raising their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll get on a call with anybody and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
This is what I'm looking for. This is what I see. This is what I vision. This is what I imagine is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm calling a business professional when it comes to, like, say, insurance or something, I called you, that's where you come in and you bring me back to reality. Is what I'm saying feasible? Can it happen?
Right.
And that's where partnerships and friendships and things outside of things that you don't know are built, because it's like, okay, we work together on here. Beth handles all the insurance, or, Josh handles all my accounting, or this person handles my finances, or I handle all my marketing and, customer feedback. Amanda handles all the admin. Like, Donnie handles all the commercial contracts. Like, that's, people don't realize, they try to bring in, like, their best friends that have no, like, valid. Your group should be motivating you. Like, if you talk to one of your friends and they knock you back down to reality, everybody always takes that as take offense to it. Mm-hmm. But you want those friends that are going to knock you back down to reality. But at the same time, those friends support you, and like, I support what you're doing, but what you're saying doesn't make sense, because this is what you need, this is what you need, and this is what you don't have, this is what you would need to do this, and this, and this is what can't happen at all.
Yes, those are the people you take feedback from.
Yes, those are the people you take feedback from. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so many people get caught up dealing with people that, this is what I've always said, it's like the whole don't take advice from a single person if you're married. Mm-hmm. And most people always, like, it's just like that same thing. Don't take advice from anybody that's not doing anything that you want to do, or trying to do anything. Like, when I started taking credit advice, I was taking credit advice from friends that don't have anything. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, you should do this and da-da-da, and don't get a credit card, or don't, try to get that business loan, because then you're going to have bad credit. And I'm like, how can you have bad credit with something if you're responsible with it?
Right.
and you're making your payment and you utilize it wisely and you use it to generate revenue versus using it to buy a liability.
Right.
You know, because young Curtis would go and get his student loan checks and go buy a car instead of putting them away in the S&P 500 or something that goes up and down. But if I'd have put it in there then, what it would be now, you know, if I'd have put all them stipend checks from buying cars and speakers and paying for alcohol at parties and would have been putting that in there to look at where it'd be at now or buying my first property.
Right.
You know, those things. Yeah. So it's like, those are a lot of things that people don't understand from like just where a lot of, not even just where I'm from, just from where a lot of people are from. And a lot of people are still too afraid, even as me as like 36 now, friends that I have that are 36 that are still too afraid to ask those questions. I got it.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, you don't.
Yeah.
You definitely don't. But I love you for thinking you do, but let me bring you back to reality. You don't.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I want to be able to do for my parents and do for Amanda's parents. And you know, when we go on, I was having a conversation today about just where I'm from in Flint, like where my dad goes, like where he grew up in his area. Like his buddy used to own a store, and we went down to that store when I visited in April or August for his birthday. The store has no running lights, the store has no running water, but he'll go still hang out there. And so I'm talking to my sister, like, why don't we just buy the building and buy the whole neighborhood? The building's $50,000. The neighborhood, these houses are $12,000 to $6,000. Let's just buy the whole thing. You know, and it's more so like, well, I don't want to invest with dad. It's like, it's not investing with dad. It's just to show him validation that we did something for him for once as his children versus always asking for something for him his whole life. Like before his time expires, what I could say, like we do something that like gives him some type of like comfort, you know?
Yeah.
I think that stuff is huge.
Him.
Yeah, like and she was like, you know, well, maybe, but I'm like, I mean, I think personally that'd be a good idea. Like Amanda's mom, there's a lot across the street from her. Let's just buy it. Like, I realized too, like you don't have to live where you buy.
It's true. Yeah.
That smacked me in the face. I'm like, what? Like, like it didn't smack me in the face. It just, sometimes somebody got to say something out loud for it to make sense.
Oh yeah, actually.
Yeah. True. And it's like, okay, if I wanted to buy a house in Seattle right now, all I got to do is either look at the Zillow and market and find the listing agent and say, hey, I want to buy that house. And they just take me through the process.
Totally.
You buy it. You don't even got to see it.
You don't.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
And I realize like life is a lot simpler than people make it, but people just don't have the qualifications or access because they haven't put themselves in a position to win. And I feel like going through everything I went through, sometimes people say I got a late start, but I think I got an early start. Because instead of me getting in trouble in my 30s, I got in trouble in my 20s.
You got it out
It could be like
early.
Yeah, like you said, it could be flip-flop. It could be me getting in trouble in my early 30s because I don't understand the consequences of my actions from my 20s. But since I learned that the hard way, I'm like, I'll never do that again, no matter how hard it is.
Yeah.
Or how bad the business is doing, or no matter what. Yeah. I'm not going back down that path because I know that path where it put me. And I had to dig myself out of a hole to get there. So to do that in your 30s, 40s, you're really going to be sitting in front of a judge's face like, hello?
You don't have as much of an excuse, right? When you're,
you'll
be like, one thing if it's your 20s, but a little different when you're older, they're like, play so much.
Think I'm like, you got some skin in the game, dog.
Yeah,
you got some skin in the game. So it's like one of those things where like my story and the bad relationships and the inconsistencies, like now it's just like, it's all about growth, you know, generational wealth, trust, building something that's sustainable, you know, and that's where that all came from. Because when I look back at it and look at my whole life, I'm just like, I'm blessed to even have the opportunity to say that I went through some of this stuff and made it out the other side. Some people don't get that fortunate.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so like when you get that fortunate to make it to the other side, then you look back and was like, dang, my friends that, like we told earlier, my friends that did tell me that story about how this and this, they want to be associated with it. You know, now they have their own businesses and I'm like, I get it, you know, I get it. And we have great friendships, you know, like, but it's just kind of funny to look back on it and be like, dang, okay, this is what reality was. And I thought life was just so hard and I was fighting for my life every day. And then you get to the side where it's like, okay, now everything's legal, everything's running right. shit, it's still hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Still a
exactly.
struggle every single day in its own way, in
Mm-hmm.
its own way, or making sure contractors are doing what they're supposed to do, and making sure my clients are tracking their macros, making sure people are making Zoom calls,
Yeah,
and it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, choose your heart, which one's fun, which one's going to get you in trouble, which one's not.
yeah,
You just got to kind of make that switch. So
yeah.
that's kind of cool.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Curtis, you are an inspiration. And thank you for doing part 2 and being the first person that did a part 2 with me. So,
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
yeah. And
It was a pleasure.
it's a great conversation, and your story is one that's well worth sharing. So
Yeah.
if you are interested in connecting with Curtis, all of his contact information again will be in show notes. So
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
for joining me.